Defining essence. Can you find out the essence of God? Or can you find out the ultimate limits of Shaddai? Zophar the Naamanite, the book of Job. It is written, we see now through a glass in a dark manner, but then face to face. Now that which is seen face to face is seen in its essence. Therefore, God will be seen in his essence by the saints in heaven. This is what is called the beatific vision. Further, it is written, when he shall appear, we shall be like him, because we shall see him as he is. Therefore, we shall see him in his essence. St. Thomas Aquinas, Summa Theologiae. I write, it is the hope of the believer that one day God will be seen in his essence, that is, face to face. This hope will be realized on the day of the Lord's coming, or the day of one's death. Today, though, we can only perceive God's essence dimly as looking through a dark glass. What follows is only an attempt to clear the ambiguity of this dark glass. It is for man's eternal beatitude that the infinite God is willfully or willingly condescended to let himself be known. It is through his attributes that God's essence is discerned. But his essence can never be comprehended or seen per se, that is, in itself. We can only see God through his effects. And we cannot see him in himself until glorification. Aquinas writes, we are unable to see his essence. We come to know his existence not in himself, but in his effects. It is also through God's effects that his attributes are discerned. Before we go on to examine the attributes of God, we will examine briefly what it means to predicate and speak of something's essence. Primary substance, an individual. There are 10 categories upon which we predicate things about individuals or substances. These 10 categories were discerned and explained by Aristotle. The 10th category, technically the first, is the substance itself, and the 9 categories are the things that can be further said about the substance. An individual or primary substance is called an ousia. The word hypostasis also means essence or substance. In regard to the Trinity, hypostasis is used in reference to the individual substances, persons of the Godhead, and ousia, technically deuteroousia, secondary substance, is used in reference to the substance or essence of godness. This is important concerning, the predication of being or identity. You need to make a distinction in the what and the who, the general and then the particular instantiation of the general. A person or a dog or a plant is called an individual or substance. An individual is also referred to as a primary substance. This is to distinguish individuals from secondary substances, the deuteroousia of humanness, nature or universals, which can be predicated of individuals as well. An individual can have these predicated of it: qualities, accidents, or attributes. Qualities are said to be present in primary substances or individuals. Qualities cannot exist independently or apart from primary substances. For example, white cannot exist without an individual substance having whiteness, quote, in it, unquote, as in a white table or white dog. Qualities or accidents are things like color, shape, size, etc. In other words, these are things that can be predicated of primary substances. A proper noun is an individual or primary substance and cannot be a predicate. Only common nouns can be used to predicate things of individuals. Consider the statement, Bill is tall. Now tallness is, quote, present in Bill. Therefore, it is an attribute or quality of Bill. It can only be said of Bill that he is tall and handsome. This is the distinction of subject and predicate. Secondary substance, or deuterousia, species and kinds. Primary substances or individuals can also be grouped together into kinds of substances, or species like man. Kinds or species can be spoken of together because they are like. Species are called secondary substances, that is, a deuterousia. Secondary substances can be predicated of primary substances or individuals. For example, Bill is a man. This tells us the kind of substance, deuterousia, that is Bill. An individual is identified who, and a species is identified or defined whatness, quiddity, essence, quote, what it is. Bill could be a man, or Bill could be a dog, or Bill could be a pig. The species will tell us the kind of substance, essence, that the particular substance, instantiated essence, and individual is. The ways species are alike. Genus. The way that a species is alike is called its genus. A genus can also be predicated of an individual substance. We can say that Bill is an animal, or Jasper is an animal. What an individual is. Genus plus difference equals species. The species and genus can be predicated together as in Bill is a man and a man is an animal. The species and genus of an individual tells us the whatness of the individual. The most important thing predicated of an individual substance is its genus and species. The predication of genus and species gives us the individual's essence, which is its definition, by telling us what kind of being it is. Species and genera tell us what the individual substance is essentially, and the other predicates tell us what it is accidentally. For example, Bill is a man essentially, but he is a tall man accidentally. Tallness is not essential to Bill. Further, a species is defined by giving its genus and difference. Bill is a man, species, and his species is that of a rational animal. A definition then signifies a thing's essence, and it consists of the genus and difference. The essence of Bill is a rational animal, which is a man. Predication. The 9 categories that a primary substance, an individual, Bill. And a secondary substance, species, man, can have predicated of them are quantity, quality, relation, place, time, posture, having, action, and being acted upon. None of these accidents are essential to being a man, species, or an animal, genus. These categories are senses in which a thing may be said to be. Ousia, or essence, means the nature. For example, humanness of an individual or primary substance. Ousia means what a thing is. It also means that a thing is such and such a quality, quantity, relation, etc. As demonstrated earlier, essence and existence are distinct in contingent being. Things can be predicated of essences without reference to whether or not they actually exist. As in the Sith Lord, Darth Vader is 6'5" tall. Being is not a genus that can be predicated of an essence. Essence and existence are distinct and can only be joined by God. Being cannot be formally predicated, although it can be a second-level predicate of existential affirmation. Composition is the act of creation that gives existence to an essence, which is called having being. Aquinas explains, "Wherefore only substances are properly and truly called beings, whereas an accident has not existence, but something is by it, and so far as it is called a being. For instance, whiteness is called a being because by it something is white. In a secondary way, being may be predicated analogically. This is what we call the analogy of being. God is a simple being and has no accidental qualities or attributes. The things that are predicated of God are predicated of him essentially. This is why it is said that God does not have righteousness as if it was in him accidentally, but God is righteousness. Whatever may be predicated of God must be predicated of him essentially. This is the identity of God's essence and existence, his simplicity. Existence and everything that is said of God is his essence. Nothing is accidental in God. All attributes as well as existence are God's essentially and not accidentally. Hilary of Poitiers confesses, "In God, existence is not an accidental quality, but subsisting truth." This truth is where the nature of language and our ability to truly know the essence of God breaks down. The finite collapses when the infinite God is being spoken of and explained. Stephen R. Holmes explains, "The divine essence is fundamentally beyond our conceptions. All our language and thought, limited as it is by created categories, is inadequate to speak of what God is. Through God's gracious revelation of himself, we have been given names to name God and actions by which we might perceive God at work. However, our names suffer from the same limitations as our language and thought. They point towards the ineffable. They do not define or grasp it. The core illustration of this is their multiplicity. We know that the simple essence of God cannot be subject to composition, because composition is one of those created realities we can grasp.